All right. Good morning, everyone. Today is Friday, December 17th, and we are back. Me, Matthew, and Matt are back with another episode of the Muffed Punt Podcast. I don't know why I always say that wrong. Here with Matt and Maddie and Matthew. How you guys doing today? Matthew, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'll tell you this much. I haven't been outside yet today, so I put on a hoodie. I live in South Florida for context, so we'll see if that ends up being a good idea. I imagine I'll step outside after this podcast and realize I've made a grave mistake.
Yeah, it's really funny for you now that we've kind of let you in on the fact that it's so much warmer there. I will say in Ohio this week, yesterday was like 55, but the winds were like 20 miles an hour. So thank God we didn't have to do the podcast yesterday because I had absolutely no Wi-Fi all day. So that was interesting. But yes, it's back to cold and 32, and I just wish it would snow at this point, but whatever. Matt, how you doing, man?
Doing well. It's pouring rain over here in Tennessee, and cold and windy. So
yeah, I mean that's the worst too. That's the worst. It's like just snow. But whatever. We got a lot to talk about today. Obviously, Maddie's team is going up today at noon, so we'll be out of here by noon for sure. Middle Tennessee State versus Toledo. We'll obviously talk about that towards the end there, and we'll get into our big bowl mania stuff. But while we've been gone for the week, has anything happened in college football, guys? Nothing big, no big news, no big news.
I heard of. No.
Yeah, so we got a lot to talk about today with signing day being on Wednesday. Some other news has come out. Obviously, the big news, Travis Hunter, the number 1 recruit in the country, flips from Florida State to Jackson State. I have a couple takes on this, as I assume. Well, I'm not going to assume. I'm going to say you have to have takes on this because we talk about college football, and this is the biggest thing to happen in college football college football recruiting probably since like a long time. So you will have to have a take on that. The transfer portal, I personally, I love it. It's the wild, wild west, and I imagine it's kind of crazy for coaches, but I think if you're a good coach, you know what you're doing in it, and that's why one person has kind of fallen out recently. But we'll talk about him as well. We'll go over our own Heismans for the year. I think it's kind of a better time to do it because I think we've all had time to step back from the season and really look at it. We're obviously, I think, unless either of you are changing, we all have our representatives. We'll go into that for about 15, 20 minutes. And then obviously our All-American teams, and we'll get you guys kind of updated what we're going to do for the bowls, our picks, and everything. But first, let's start out with the number 1 story in college football, basically since Michigan beat Ohio State probably, or all the coaching carousel. That's the thing. Like, if you had to rank the Travis Hunter flipping from Florida State to Jackson State, like, is it the top of the news cycle of recent, or is it not? Because, Lincoln Riley went to USC and Brian Kelly went to LSU. I don't know. What do you guys think? Someone could speak. Okay, whatever.
You got to just pick one of us.
All right. But yeah, so he signed with Jackson State. Personally, I don't think this means literally anything for Jackson State. If anything, I think it's like you're looking yourself in the mirror from a year and you're dead because there's no way that Deion Sanders has stayed at Jackson State. And I feel like this could become a thing in the future, and I'll obviously get your guys' thoughts. But in the future, you not only, if you're looking for a head coach, you could not only be looking to bring in a head coach, but you could also be looking to bring in like 2 to 3 to 4 or 5 stars with him. I think that's kind of the future you're going with. Right now, that's what it looks like. But obviously, just your guys' thoughts on the whole thing with Deion Sanders. Me and Matt talked about it a little bit, or me, Matt, and then Matthew. I'm sure you saw it in the net. I'm convinced this is all a ploy from Deion Sanders to get the Florida State job. And while everyone wants to say that Florida State should have hired him, 2 years ago when they hired Mike Norvell, I get it. Deion's always going to be able to recruit, but Deion had never coached a football game in his entire life before that. So I have no problem with Florida State like taking a pause. Maybe they should have put him on a staff. Maybe he should have been one of those dumb jobs like the strength and conditioning coordinator that all he does is recruit, or like the social media guy that all he does is recruit. But I don't know. What are your thoughts? It is down south. Matthew, I'll start with you.
Yeah, as someone who is not a fan of the program but keeps a pretty close eye on it, my observation was this is bad for Florida State. Now, granted, their recruiting class is still shaping out pretty okay. This isn't devastating. But this has never happened to anybody before, and now it's happened to you. So they're not very happy. What interests me is Mike Norvell just got this new extension. And we keep coming back to this conversation about Deion maybe making a move to Florida State. I see that in the next couple of years, and I think this whole situation just kind of makes Mike Norvell look like the idiot.
Yeah,
I feel that. Matt, what about you, man?
So I personally don't think it's really a ploy, because I heard the Jackson State they seat like 60,000 a game. I mean, I think he probably got a pretty nice NIL deal, even though he's going to the FCS. I don't think it's necessarily a ploy, though, for Deion to Florida State necessarily in the next couple of years. I think I could see it down the road, but making the jump straight from FCS to Florida State, I don't know if I see it right away.
I kind of agree. I agree with you. Like I think I sent out a tweet yesterday that I was like, so what happens when Deion goes to a Power 5 team next year and goes 3-9 in his first year? Like, then what happens? Like, oh, he's a great recruiter, but he can't coach? Because that's what it seems like to me. I disagree with you wholeheartedly. I think that once the coaching carousel opens up next year, which, like we've seen this year, it could open up at any point. It could open up earlier than we thought it would be. I think teams will be racing after him. I don't know if they should be, but the big thing and we saw it with Dan Mullen, so maybe you can kind of say, but like, if you can recruit, fans really don't care until you start sucking, and then. But as long as you can fall back on recruits, you have a little bit of like a foundation a little bit. But I like I said, yeah, I agree with you that I do think Deion moves eventually to FBS school. I don't think that it's that like this is as big as culturally as people want it to be. Like the number one like African American player going to an HBCU, like this could happen in the future. I have a couple takes on it. Like, I don't think this will ever again happen in the future because I think Deion's out. They're never gonna I don't think they're gonna get another top 10 recruit without Deion. But you've also seen these HBCU coaches are doing what Jackson State is doing now. Jackson State hired Deion, and if you didn't see, I think over the weekend, which coming from me, it's a horrible, horrible, horrible hire. But I mean, it's gonna get asses in seats. I mean, Grambling hired Hugh Jackson over the weekend. You obviously know who Hugh Jackson is, I hope. But old Browns coach, basically probably the worst record ever in the NFL. But he's going to get people at these games. And then I don't know what other HBCU it was. Maybe it was one of the Tennessee schools. I think East Tennessee State. Maybe they hired Eddie George. To bring an image back. And I do think that nowadays with recruits, like that kind of plays. Like recruits don't care as much anymore about the college necessarily. I think they just want to get to the NFL, and I don't blame them. But I think that when you have a guy like Deion Sanders or Eddie George who did it before, I think those guys are always going to be able to recruit. So, but yeah, I don't think it's that big a deal for Jackson State. And overall, I think it was the hugest story on National Signing Day, but I thought there was a bigger signing on National Signing Day personally, and I just don't think it's going to carry the weight going forward. But I don't know. We'll see. And then to Florida State, I mean, Matthew, you obviously have your hand on the pulse there. I don't know if they made a bad hire by hiring Mike Norvell. Like, I don't think he's been terrible. I think when Jimbo left them, that program was pretty. It was going to get pretty messy no matter what. I thought. Granted, Florida State is a job that is like Miami to me, like where if you get the right coach, you can win a national championship in 2 to 3 years. But I don't know if they made the wrong decision, Mike Norvell. The more question just comes back to how can you be the head coach at Florida State University, who's historically probably one of the top 5 programs of all time, and you have now your probably one of your best players ever just recruited against you and won. I don't know if you guys saw Twitter. I mean, Matthew kind of alluded to it, but I mean, people like I remember looking at this one, like you can speak on Twitter now, and it was like fire Mike Norvell. There was 8,000 people in on it. Like, so I think it's a little bit blown out of proportion, but at the same time, I completely understand their frustration. Like, how does this happen to Florida State? I don't know, Matthew, maybe you can add a little bit to that.
I think it just comes down to the on-the-field product, you know. Mike Norvell was an exciting hire, and in an ideal world, an exciting season would have followed that. Kind of went average to how it's been these last couple of years, maybe a little bit of upwards momentum. But for a premier program like that, you got to present something more exciting if you really want to pick up those recruits like that, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah. What about you, Matt? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's still pretty early in his tenure there. I think you got to give him a couple more years. Like Matthew said earlier, I mean, he's got even losing Travis Hunter, he's still got a pretty good class coming in. So.
Yeah, which was kind of the backstory I thought of all of it was like they ended up rounding in, I think, a top 20 class, and it's not like – and we're not talking like the back in the days in the late 90s and the early 2000s when Florida State was the power. So a top 20 class in the ACC, who, by the way, was terrible this year, like – and that's the thing. If you're a Florida State fan, like, yeah, that sucks you didn't get Travis Hunter. But the ACC is wide open for the foreseeable future, I think. And we'll talk about that. But, yeah, I think the whole Travis Hunter thing was a little bit blown out of proportion, which brings me to my next segment on National Signing Day. I mean, the biggest story was that A&M signed the number one class, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so – this was my question about the signing class. They obviously signed, I think, Walter Nolan, and I think obviously more than that. And then I saw someone say, one of the recruiting guys, analysts, whatever, say that of like the 7 5-stars left, there's a good chance that like 5 of them could also end up in at Texas A&M, which that's great. Like, Jimbo, that's awesome. But in my question to you guys is, are these like all-star recruits signing up to go 8-5, 7-5, 9-2 every year? I'll start with you, Matt, I guess.
I think A&M's going to be climbing the board here in the next few years. I think they're going to get to the top pretty soon and be in a playoff.
Matthew?
Looking over at the SEC West, it's getting – the power's spread out pretty evenly, it's starting to look like. But I think Texas A&M is going to emerge from that. I think mostly because I've come on here before and I've talked about they've always recruited along the lines of scrimmage and built their foundation from there. And this is one of the first years that we've really started to see them expand out. They got Evan Stewart, who was a 5-star, like the number 3 wide receiver this cycle. They're starting to add in at those skill positions. I think this is them saying, hey, we've built what we want to build from the ground up, and now it's go time. So I'm a little more worried about the product they're going to put out from now on because I think they're going to be a much more complete team. I think they've decided that they want to kick this thing into gear and get it moving.
And we've obviously been through the coaching carousel, obviously. I mean, if you're already a defensive coordinator at a Power 5 program or looking to become a defensive coordinator, obviously Mike Elko left to take the Duke job. The A&M defensive coordinator is now at Duke. Any thoughts on that? My only thought is that I guess I understand it because like if you look at it as a coach, like you never want to just be a defensive coordinator unless you're Brent Venables, and we saw that he actually wants to be a head coach as well. So I do think that there gets to a point where you're like, okay, I'm going to take any job. I just don't know what going to Duke is going to do for you. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that, but
I don't know if you guys saw, but it seemed like it was trending towards being Jason Garrett at Duke for a little while there, and then they ended up flipping to go with him. They should
have gone with Jason Garrett. Like,
yeah.
What kind
anything
of
to get like now? If you're Duke, like your football program is so far behind your basketball program, and at this point, so far behind your lacrosse program that like just like they should have just hired like OJ Simpson, like just get people in the stands, like just make some money so you can maybe get like pay a 3-star recruit. But yeah, I mean I would think going back to Texas A&M, I mean that's got to be the hottest job on the market, like. I would tend to think that at this point they're going to promote from within, but the defensive class they signed is insane. I just don't. I don't know. I guess
somebody on 24/7 Sports I saw came on. They said that 3 of the defensive linemen that A&M recruited and landed this cycle are all on the same level as DeMarvin Leal was when they recruited him out of high school. So that's like adding 3 Leals to your team in one cycle.
I mean, yeah, I hear that. I feel that. But I don't know what Jimbo's done in the past. And which I guess we'll go to the next topic then. Quinn Ewers going to Texas, which I know we talked about last week. It would have been so much more fun if he went to Texas Tech. I would have been a Red Raiders fan. But he's back at Texas, which I think we all should have seen coming. Apparently, the whole Quinn Ewers thing to me is very funny because he basically used Ohio State to get $1 million, which is fine. Great. And then he went to Texas Tech and basically talked them into I guess the NIL deal for him at Texas Tech was going to be like 1.5 or something like that, 1.5 mil. And then Texas had to come over the top with a better offer than 1.5 mil. That's what I'm hearing that was going on behind it. And I think, honestly, Quinn Ewers made this. I think you're going to start seeing this a lot more. Like, I think Quinn Ewers never. I disagree. I think Quinn Ewers, like after Fields left Ohio State, he thought he could be the future of Ohio State. But then I think when he saw that C.J. Stroud took it over in the summer, and then he still enrolled, he was like, I'm going to go enroll in school, and you guys don't have to pay attention to me. Like, whatever, I'll be here, but I'm not really on the team. I'm going to make up $1.4 million from all your Columbus businesses, and then I'm going to go to Texas, where I really wanted to go anyways next year as a freshman. So I think it's interesting. But going back to Texas A&M, why do you think that in the news that just broke earlier that you said, like, why did Jimbo not go after Quinn Ewers? Either one. Matt, I'll start with you.
I mean, so my cousin actually coaches. He's a linebackers coach in high school in Houston, the Houston area. He coached against that Wiegman kid. Mm-hmm. He's telling me that he's better than any high school player he's ever seen. So clearly he's fully invested in him. I still don't understand the Max Johnson news this morning. He's got 3 years of eligibility. He's got to compete with Wiegman now. I don't get why he would want to go do that, but I'm hearing Wiegman's the real deal. So I think that's why he just stayed away from Ewers and stuck with his kid that he's been looking at the whole time.
Matthew?
Yeah, I was just on my phone to double check this. This will be the second time we go to 24/7 Sports on this podcast. But Jimbo Fisher essentially came out and said he thinks he's got the best quarterback in the country. And if you think you have that, why risk starting a controversy in the quarterback's room and start having kids transfer out and then be the guy who lost either Quinn Ewers or Connor Wiegman, who both at this point are probably going to be incredible talents down the road.
Yeah, no, I buy both those things. I mean, it brings you back to Ohio State telling their defensive backs that sucked last year that they don't want Eli Ricks because of that, which we'll get into in a second. But no, I agree. I haven't seen the Wiegman kid play. I also think that now that I'm thinking about it, the Max Johnson may be like, if you're looking at it, obviously I think Haynes King is coming back. Calzada answered the portal. I don't know how much of a chance Haynes King really has. I think he probably will end up transferring anyways. Where was I going with this? The Wiegman kid. I don't know where I was going with that. The Max Johnson. He might be just like maybe Jimbo. Like Wiegman might be the best ever. Like he might be great, but maybe Jimbo isn't just isn't 100% comfortable with a true freshman quarterback and how talented that team could be. Would be my only guess. But then again, if he's as talented as that and he end up starts next year and they're like amazing, then Bama will just probably beat him in the national game. That's what always happens. But all right, and then I thought the biggest pickup on signing day was not a prospect or not a recruit at all. Do you know who I'm thinking about? Either one of you?
No.
We just talked. I mean, Eli Ricks is going to Alabama.
Hey, well, I didn't say him because you said it was not a big deal, not surprising. So I was like, all right.
I said not surprised about something else. I mean, I don't think any of us are really that shocked that he's at Bama or any of you guys. I'm not. I personally, I thought he would probably choose Georgia over Bama, but then again, you can't once again deny Bama's pipeline to the NFL. So how big of a pickup do you guys think this is for Bama? Do you think it really helps them next year? Like, what do you think of Eli Ricks just going from LSU to Bama? Matthew.
It's interesting because last year we saw this with Henry To'oTo'o. The transfer portal has this unique ability. It can disperse the talent among college football and kind of create a more even playing field. But you're also going to have the guys who are 5 stars who are on other teams who can now step up and go to the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States. In that sense, it comes a little bit more of a top-heavy sport. And that's what I think we saw with Eli Ricks. Personally, I'm not too interested in what Alabama's going to be doing on defense until they get Pete Golding out of there. If that happens, I think we can see a much better on-the-field product, even maybe as specifically as Eli Ricks. But if that's not going to change, I think we're going to get decent output from these guys. Like I keep talking about, Will Anderson had a great year this year. But I'd love to get Golding out of there as soon as possible. Nonetheless, I think Ricks is a pretty big pickup. I think he's going to have a pretty big on-the-field role this coming season. I just can't stop talking crap about Pete Golding, though. I'm sorry. My mind is elsewhere.
Did he play at Alabama?
Did he? I don't think so.
He's. I know what he looks like. Yeah, Matthew, look it up for me because I feel like I know that name from somewhere. I don't know if he played there. I know that name. I obviously know him because of the defense coordinator. Matt, what do you think? Eli Ricks, Alabama.
Unfortunately, it's not as big of news because he went to Bama because they get these.
I think we lost Matt.
It was an issue on their team early in the year, at least. It was suspected to be their defense, and I think he'll be a big impact next year for sure.
Yeah, I think he's a certified. I would say first round pick. I think he's a guaranteed first round pick at this point, unless devastating injury. But I thought it didn't surprise me once Ohio State came out. Once again, Matt, just another great prediction going to USC, right? Just going across the country to USC.
I was on top of it right there.
Our insider, we just love it. All right. Just 2 other real quick things, and then we can kind of get into, unless you guys have something else.
Just real quick.
There's a couple.
Okay. Well, then Matthew, we'll start with you, and we'll talk about that, and then Matt will go to you because you seem like you have a lot, Matt. So we'll start with you, Matthew.
Yeah, I was just going to say Pete Golding, I'm looking here. It says he went to Delta State University, and I'm actually not finding anything about him playing football.
Okay, I'm gonna look this up. I'm gonna. You know what? Maybe we'll get rich and famous by we're gonna find some story like Manti Te'o story about Pete Golding. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna work for the next 90 days straight, just finding out Pete Golding's fake girlfriend. I'll look into that. I don't know. He looks like he's the white guy. He looks like a linebacker, kind of. Yeah, white guy with linebacker. That's just like the Alabama 2000 either quarterback or linebacker is just the swoop hair, I think. So I think I'm just thinking of that maybe.
That
I don't
John
know.
Parker Wilson haircut.
Yes.
About.
Yes, it's just So, Matt, sorry, I didn't want to forget about you. Go ahead.
I wasn't sure if we were about to move off the transfer portal. I don't know if you guys saw there was a couple quarterback transfers. Rattler to UCLA and Rattler to South Carolina and Gabriel to UCLA.
And did you see the 2 from this morning? Adrian Martinez to Kansas State.
Yeah, I saw that one too, actually. Sorry.
And then I don't know what the other one was. I have 3 things. I don't know if I ever told you guys. I did go to South Carolina for a year. I thought I may have mentioned that, but I did.
Yeah.
So I'm a full Spencer Rattler fan now, even though I hated him last year. Overall, I think you have to look at this as if you're a South Carolina fan. This is huge. This is just huge for the program, being able to land someone like this. And it shows that Shane Beamer actually kind of knows what he's doing, which before this year, I kind of thought they made a really bad hire with him. It looks like he kind of knows what he's doing, and he has that Lincoln Riley, it seems, kind of effect because he coached under Lincoln Riley. So that's good. The only thing I'll say about Spencer Rattler is there's 2 things, really. A, he might not just be very good. He just might not be very good, and that's fine. But also B, which I think is a reason to look up for South Carolina fans, he's still really young. I think he's 20 years old. I think he has 3 years of eligibility left. So, but on top of the South Carolina thing, and this doesn't have anything really to do with South Carolina, but then you saw So obviously Rattler chose to go to South Carolina, but then South Carolina's incumbent starter then obviously entered the transfer portal. So, I mean, it really is going to be the wild, wild west, I think. But, Matt, keep going if you have any more.
I just wanted to bring up, the quarterback movement there with Gabriel to UCLA.
Which is – I thought Gabriel was for sure going to go to Ole Miss. Who's going to play quarterback? Who's going to play quarterback for Ole Miss next year, Matthew?
Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, it might as well. You know what? Maybe he'll have his kid. You know what? You know what wouldn't be the most shocking thing ever? I don't think it would happen for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. But if Arch Manning just takes the I don't know how old he is, so he might not be able to do it, but if he just takes the Quinn Ewers route, I think you're going to start seeing that a lot. Until Texas, I think Texas is one of the only states, which is so weird because people love football more than like life itself there, but it's one of the only states you can't get like an NIL high school deal for the athletes. So that's why he left Texas to play. So he didn't have to play senior year. Who his team also was still very good. Lost last week, in case anyone cared. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens in the future. I want to say, you said Max Johnson. That's pretty much it, I think. We'll obviously do a full recap. I guess the transfer portal never ends, but we'll do a full recap, I guess, maybe before the season or something like that. But all right. And then two other quick things I had. They passed a new bylaw I don't know if it's a bylaw. I don't know the wording. I don't know the legalities of it. They passed something else new in the NCAA Constitution, which I think is very good because I think the NCAA has been doing this for years, and it's the most ridiculous thing they ever do. Basically, they're making it so if your team, say, like in 2000, won a national championship, but you cheated or something, whatever, they can't impose bans or like postseason bans or things like that on the current players. You know what I mean? So instead, which I always thought was the dumbest thing ever, because Reggie Bush and USC that happened in 2005, but you have kids that want to go to USC now that weren't even born then. Obviously, they're still in high school now, but they weren't even born yet. So I think that's a great move forward. I don't know then how you punish teams, but I think that's a good move. And then I don't know if you guys have seen this or saw this, and I don't talk about my NFL life on here, but it's more miserable than it's ever been. Tom Brady is making an apparel line that he's going to sign college athletes NIL deals. Some of the athletes already on it. Michigan's shitty quarterback, Deion's kid, Matt, your favorite receiver, and the Coastal Carolina quarterback, Grayson, whatever his fucking name is.
McCall, yeah.
I hate Tom Brady. I hate New England. I hate Michigan, which brings us to a great point. We're just going to skip the Urban Meyer backlash. We'll get back to that. Does the Heisman have a Michigan problem?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. At least one of you agrees with me.
I would say I'm not completely sold on a Michigan problem, but this weird, pseudo academic Big Ten sort of thing happening for sure.
And I'll even water it down a little more than that, but I think you're right. Hit the nail on the head. It's whenever a team that's one of these historic powers, it could happen to Florida State too. One of these teams that has it been a historic power that somehow has one really good season out of, if they've been bad, and then they just you have to pick one of the players from it. So I'm just going to go over some of the jokes that Michigan has been in the Heisman recently. I hate Michigan. I hate Harbaugh. I think they're losers. And I've said Aiden Hutchinson is massively overrated, but this is more than that. They're other than before the 1950s, they really should never have had a Heisman finalist. I'll just say that. In 1991, it went to Desmond Howard. You want to hear Desmond Howard's stats that year? 62 receptions, 985 yards, 19 touchdowns. Huge 19 touchdowns, especially 1991. That's huge. And he rushed the ball 13 times for 2 touchdowns. He had, and this is, so we're at Desmond Howard, so we're not even at Charles Woodson yet, who played defense and returned kicks. He had 1,165 scrimmage yards that year. 1,165 scrimmage yards. Do you know how many players this year had more than that? 76 players. And let's also be real, the finalists that year, Casey Weldon, quarterback for Florida State, never heard of him. Ty Detmer, obviously heard of him. I think he won in 92, so that's at least somebody. Steve Emptman, defensive lineman from Washington, and Shane Matthews, a quarterback in Florida. Do you know who that is, Matthew?
I'm embarrassed. I have not.
I don't either. So that's
I've got the Florida hoodie on. He's got my name right there in his, and it didn't click.
Yeah, sorry. It's not your fault, but whatever. And I know we kind of breezed over this, but I hadn't seen the video when we talked over it last weekend. His comment and the whole Tebow just needs to get out of the college football media because he's just weird in it at this point. Like, I love Tebow, but do the NFL, like, not college football for me.
What did he say?
Tebow didn't. Desmond Howard said, I'm sure you guys saw it, but like at the Heisman ceremony, he basically was standing next to like Hutchinson was standing there with CJ Stroud and Tebow and blah, blah, blah. And Desmond Howard Tebow said something like, "Oh, I'm glad that Kenny Pickett isn't between Aiden Hutchinson and CJ Stroud, like standing between them." And then Desmond Howard was like, unlike CJ Stroud's offensive lineman. It's very funny to me that like Michigan gets one win, and like this is almost like an Auburn thing to me. Except I think Auburn's probably been better in their rivalry versus Alabama. But I'll go on past that. But I mean, Desmond Howard is a joke. He's been a joke. He didn't talk about Michigan for the past decade, and now they win a game, and he just shut up. I would say Charles Woodson, but if you're a red-blooded American, you know that Peyton Manning should have won that Heisman. And probably one of the greatest Heisman finalists ever. Greatest. Jabril Peppers. He was really good. I'm not kidding when I say this. He was an average Big Ten defender, and he was voted into the Heisman finalist. And then this year, as the more and more, obviously, once again, my Michigan hate takes over and my Jim Harbaugh hate takes over. But if you take a step back and just look at it, you can say all you want that Aiden Hutchinson had 3 sacks against Ohio State and Penn State. If you take a step back and look at it, Aiden Hutchinson's season, it doesn't even compare to Will Anderson's season. And beyond that, it doesn't even come close to the seasons that the Bosa's had, the Chase Youngs had. Myles Garrett never actually had a really good season, which is weird. The Von Millers had. Aiden Hutchinson in no way deserved to be at that ceremony. I'm just going to say that because he was not a top 5 player in the country. No matter the Michigan thing, whatever, Will Anderson should have been there, and I think 95% of the country now knows that. And they're all going to see it when Aiden Hutchinson gets destroyed by Georgia's offensive line. Any thoughts on the Michigan problem or just the Heisman problem, like I kind of said in the beginning? Matt, I'll start with you. You haven't talked in a while.
Yeah, I definitely think that, like Matthew said, it's definitely more of like maybe a Big Ten problem, the academic thing. They tend to always go with the bigger traditional programs than the actually best players, and it's definitely a problem.
Yeah, and when we get to our Heisman, which I think you're going to talk about Kenneth Walker, the fact that Kenneth Walker wasn't at the ceremony makes absolutely no sense to me. Like in all reality, it probably should have been Bryce Young, Kenny Pickett, and Kenneth Walker. I think they should have just made it 3 because then you don't have to deal with the Anderson. Even though I think Anderson deserved to be there, you don't have to deal with the Anderson Hutchinson bullshit. So, yeah, it's just crazy, and I really like the Lions. Like I like Dan Campbell. I really don't hope. I hope they don't draft Aiden Hutchinson. And we'll see him on the All-American team coming up, but he's not the best player in the country. All right, let's go to all our All-American teams. Matthew, you can go ahead and start.
Yeah, so it's funny because the same group of people who vote on the Heisman that I strongly disagree with, in my opinion, actually put together a pretty decent All-American team from what I saw. I don't know. I may have changed like 1 or 2 spots on defense and then like 4 or 5 on offense. So I'm just going to rapid fire through these.
Go ahead, yeah.
I don't remember which ones I changed and which ones are the way that they were. So I've got quarterback Bryce Young, running back Kenneth Walker, RB2 Travion Henderson, At tackle, I've got Jamari Salyer out of UGA and Darian Kennard out of Kentucky. At guard, I've got Kenyon Green from Texas A&M and Zion Johnson from Boston College. At center, I've got Tyler Linderbaum, Iowa. Big surprise. Tight end, I put Brock Bowers out of Georgia, even as a freshman. Wide receivers, I've got Jordan Addison, Xavier Worthy, and Jamison Williams. I know you don't love that there's not a whole lot of Ohio State in there, but
No, I don't feel yeah, that's fine.
all purpose, I've got Treylon Burks. I wanted to give him a nice little shout out. He had an incredible year. Kicker, I just left who was on there, Jake Moody. I'm not going to act like I'm scouting kickers.
No worries.
On defense,
well, if anything, we have no idea how kickers are going to be in the NFL anyways, considering that whatever. Keep going.
So defense, this is all very cut and dry. I do have Aiden Hutchinson, and then I've got Kayvon Thibodeau. That's in no order. Jordan Davis, DeMarvin Leal as my defensive tackles. Linebackers, I've got Will Anderson, N'Kobe Dean, and then I've got Devin Lloyd. Corners, I've got Ahmad Gardner and Roger McCreary. Safeties, I've got Verone McKinley and Jalen. I never got how to say his last name, the safety out of Baylor.
Petrie. I think it's Petrie. I think it's Petrie.
Okay.
Oh, Petra? What did you say?
I think it's Petrie.
Okay, I think so. Yeah, I think it's
Petrie,
I have a friend that has that last name like that. Yeah, so okay.
Okay,
yeah,
great. Yeah, so Petrie, and then Marcus Jones is the defensive back, and for punter, just like the kicker, I left the one who was there, which is Matt Araiza, a junior out of San Diego State.
He should have been a unanimous All-American punter. I'll just say that. Yeah, I like your picks, all of them. I think the best way to do it, we're all going to go through ours, then we can talk about it. So, Matt, go ahead, my man.
All right. Yeah, I also didn't change much. I think I changed even less than you, Matthew. So I got Bryce Young, Kenneth Walker, Sean Tucker. And then receivers, I got Jordan Addison, Jamison Williams, and I went with Jackson Smith and Jigba. Tight end, Brock Bowers. Offensive tackles, Evan Neal and Charles Cross. Guards, Kenyon Green and Ikeem Ekwonu. I think I pronounced that right, on NC State.
Yep.
And then Linderbaum as well on Iowa. And then on defense, Justin, don't kill me. I got Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo, both at the end. D-tackle, I got Jordan Davis. Linebackers, Will Anderson, N'Kobe Dean, Malcolm Rodriguez, and Leo Chenal on Wisconsin. Corners, I got Ahmad Gardner and Andrew Booth Jr. on Clemson. Safeties, I got the same as Matthew, Verone McKinley and Jalen Petrie. And I didn't do special teams. No disrespect.
All right. I'll do mine, then I have a good question for you. I did try to go a little bit outside of the box, but you're right. I didn't change much. You didn't see me because you were looking down, Matt. I'm really mad at one of your picks. So quarterback, what I did with the quarterback is I usually take the Heisman winner out. So that's usually what I do for my All-America team. So which is weird because they didn't do that for the Davey O'Brien or the Maxwell this year, I don't think, which was very weird. Those are usually the runner-up trophies for the Heisman. But I have Kenny Pickett, and then I put the honorable mention, so it would be second team Bryce Young. But I just keep the Heisman out. Running back Kenneth Walker, Michigan State. Running back also, this is where I hate you, Matt, Sean Tucker. I thought I was going to be the only one. Screw you, God. Wide receiver, I only went with two wide receivers, so I went with Garrett Wilson, and I'm happy that we all agree on Jordan Addison because he was awesome this year. And then obviously Jamison Williams, you could fit it right in with those three. I think the top five receivers, top six, even including your boy Pickens, are all pretty much like really, really good. So it's really just about stats at that point. I too had Brock Bowers at tight end. I will mention Isaiah Likely at Coastal had 12 touchdowns this year. Kennard at tackle, Ekanawu at tackle as well, which is weird because I think Neal is going to be the first tackle taken, which is smart. He's a giant. I also had Kenyon Green and Zion Johnson. Then I don't another unanimous should be Tyler Linderbaum at Iowa. He may have been. Defense, Aiden Hutchinson probably should be somewhere in here, but I did not put him in. Defensive end Kayvon Thibodeau, and then defensive end Will Anderson. Personally, unless there's an Ohio State like defensive end, I usually think the four defensive lineman positions should just be SEC. which is what they are for me, except for Thibodeau. Jordan Davis and DeMarvin Leal, I would be shocked if that wasn't nearly unanimous. Same with the linebackers, except Ivo Jabo is a linebacker, but I have Nakobe Dean and Devin Lloyd as well. I had Amon Gardner as well. We talked about him. I had Riley Moss from Iowa, gave him some love for the early season because we do have to remember for about almost half a season that Iowa was a top 5 team in the country. Really? No, but they were ranked there. So, and he had a lot to do with that. I as well went with Patriot from Baylor, and I went with Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame. My kicker was Ruggles from Ohio State, punter Matt Araiza, San Diego State, again unanimous. And then I didn't really do an all-purpose. Well, I did. This is my all-purpose. Deuce Vaughn, Kansas State. He had a ton of scrimmage yards this year. So yeah, I with what you said, Matthew, right away, I pretty much agree with it. I think they usually don't really know what they're doing. I also think they kind of just got to graze over what could have been an issue by putting Will Anderson a linebacker, which isn't terrible, but I think of it more as a defensive end. But whatever. Matt, no Kyle Hamilton.
No, I mean, he missed a lot of time this year. I think he's one of the best, obviously, not even just safeties, defensive players in the nation. But I think All-American, you got to play for it. And he played only like half the year. So,
yeah, I hear you. And then with the receivers, I think you – unfortunately, I think if you're going to have like a top 5 receiver debate, like I think you got to leave Olave out. I think it's between Jackson Smith and Jigba and – Garrett Wilson, if you're talking about Ohio State, Pickens, who I think is going to eat apart. I don't like George Pickens, but I'm going to be cheering a lot for George Pickens because I think he's going to eat apart that Michigan secondary. And then Addison was just incredible. But let's move on. Unless anyone wants to bring anything else up. Yeah, I think it was pretty straightforward. All right. Let's do our Heismans. I know I said 5 minutes. You can take as long as you want. Shorter, less, doesn't really matter. And then either you're at the end, top 5 standings or top 7, top 8, whatever. Who wants to go first?
I could take it.
All right.
I don't have his stats up here yet, but I do think I might know a handful of them off the top. Okay, here they are. So Will Anderson. Let's talk about this for a second. He's got 15 and a half sacks. He's got, it's not showing me here, I think it's like 31 and a half tackles for loss. All this season.
32.
32? Okay. So I was off by a half tackle. I'm pretty happy with that.
32 and a half, you were off by 1.
Oh, I see.
All right,
okay.
Sorry, yeah.
Well, listen, there wasn't a whole ton going on at the top of the Heisman race this year. I understand the want to shift it towards Bryce Young. And I can see the argument both ways because when you look at the lowest point of this Alabama season, which was the A&M game, it was equal parts ugly on offense and defense. So I think it can kind of go both ways for Bryce Young, Will Anderson in that degree. However, Bryce Young, he was able to lead the team, but he wasn't as much of a standout. Whereas you could have put this version of Will Anderson on a lot of different Alabama rosters, and he really would have been special. I think if you put this version of Bryce Anderson on last year's Alabama, or Bryce Anderson, oh my word, Bryce Young on 2019 Alabama, 2018 Alabama, 2020 Alabama, he's not going to start. Whereas Will Anderson, he would start on almost any of the Alabama teams in these last several years. That's about as much argument as I have for you, but I don't imagine I need much more. I feel strongly that he was the best defensive player this year, and I feel pretty strongly that he was the best all-around player this year, maybe with the exception of 1 or 2 guys who just aren't realistically in the Heisman race, like, say, a Kenny Pickett.
Well, okay. All right. That was just mean. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I think the issue you run into with the like looking at who should get the Heisman, like with between Bryce Young and Will Anderson, for the rest of our lives, it's always going to be the quarterback that's going to get the award. But almost 100 out of 100 times, if you ask anyone who the better football player is, it's always going to be that defensive player.
I will say last year though, Devontae Smith did take it over his quarterback, and Mac Jones had some numbers.
That's the other thing I was going to ask you. You don't think Bryce Young starts over Mac Jones?
No.
Really?
Mm-mm. Maybe he starts over Patriots Mac Jones, but he does not start over Crimson Tide Mac Jones.
Okay. I take your word for it. I just saying, I don't know. I think it was a lot of the players with him, and I guess we'll see with CJ Stroud next year. I guess CJ Stroud next year will be what Mac Jones would have been if he's – well, it wouldn't be because he would have had Jameson Williams and John Mechie this year, so it doesn't matter. Whatever. I like your argument. He was the best defensive player, not by a long shot in the country, I don't think. Not by a long shot, only because I think Ahmad Gardner is very, very good. But, yeah, he definitely had the most impactful defensive season of anyone by far because no one threw to Ahmad Gardner. All right, Matt.
All right, Kenneth Walker. So I want to start by talking about, how he got to Michigan State. You see, so Michigan State has a guy, I don't know if he's a recruiter or what exactly his position is, but he's watching the portal round the clock. That's his job. Every time somebody gets entered into the portal, he watches it. The second Kenneth Walker gets into the portal, he pulls him up, learns about him, watches like 2 plays. Mel Tucker had a rule, 10 plays on a guy. If you don't think he's the guy after 10 plays, then he's probably not right. He watched 2 plays, brought him to Mel Tucker right away. That's how you know someone's special. I don't think anyone would argue that he's not the best running back in the nation, so I don't really need to pitch that. But if you compare him to past Heisman winner like Mark Ingram, his numbers stack up. So the fact that he wasn't even there, timeout, what?
I'm going to call penalty there. Mark Ingram was probably the worst Heisman winner of the last 25 years.
Matthew's got something to say about it.
What did you say? Who else is worse?
Listen, I'm going to keep it to myself.
Yeah,
I can't go
right.
down this path.
We'll talk about it afterwards. Okay. Keep going, Matt. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So let me find it here in my notes here. So, Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey was a different year. Those two were both just monsters. There was nothing like that this year, and obviously we all know it was a little bit weaker year for Heisman. So, in today's day and age, it's a passing game. It's even more impressive. Back then when Mark Ingram won, it was, not quite as entrenched in the game with the passing. There were still a lot of teams that built their offenses on the run game. Now that's not really a thing. And he still was able to put up a Heisman caliber season. You look at his touches compared to Mark Ingram, or his season stats compared to Mark Ingram's. 303 touches for Mark Ingram in his Heisman year, 276 for Kenneth Walker. 1,992 yards for Mark Ingram, 1,725 for Walker. 20 touchdowns for Ingram, 19 for Walker. Every category you look at, not to mention Kenneth Walker played 2 less games. So, I mean, if you want to talk past Heismans, he definitely stacks up. It's ridiculous he wasn't even at the Heisman ceremony. I think he would have had better stats than Mark Ingram he did per game. So I just think the other candidates not there this year. Clearly the best player at his position. I think best player in the country.
Solid arguments. Where was he at Kansas before?
Wake Forest.
I don't know why I've never thought of this, and this is definitely not a guarantee. I know a player on the Wake Forest team. I'll see if we can get him on the podcast. Like I coached one of our running backs when I coached in high school football. He's at Wake Forest now. He plays there. One of our offensive linemen. That's interesting. I didn't know he went to Wake. Why did I think Kansas? Kansas got all Buffalo's transfers. Yeah, that's it. I like Kenneth Walker. I 100% agree. The fact that he wasn't even in attendance there was a joke. I think if CJ Stroud was a real man, he'd just be like, all right, Kenneth, you can go for me. But whatever. He did have a great season. And if you look back, obviously the playoff notwithstanding and maybe the SEC champion in the biggest game of the year, in the biggest win of the year, who do you think had the best win of the year? Because I think it might be Michigan State over Michigan. And he absolutely was the reason they won that game. I also put up there. This is a conversation for another time. Cincinnati's win over Notre Dame ended up being one of the biggest wins of the year. But we can talk about that every time. All right. I am obviously representing, hopefully, 2022 Cleveland Browns quarterback, Kenny Pickett. I'll just start out with kind of saying that, when you look at the Heisman, and it's usually a one season award, and it should be. And that's exactly why Kenny Pickett should win it. But the Heisman also it's all about like the best player, the best leader, the best who made the most impact. There was no player in college football who made more of an impact on their team than Kenny Pickett did this year. If you look at his career stats and you want to talk about a guy who's probably going to now get drafted in the top 15 that went undrafted last year. So I don't know what he did over the summer, but whatever he did, it was crazy. His sophomore year, his first year starting, he threw 13 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. His junior year, last year, 13 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. This year, 42 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. I would have to obviously go back and fact check, but I highly doubt there's someone that has made that big of a jump from one year to another in such an incredible, in such a important position. On top of that, everyone loves an underdog story. There really weren't. I mean, if you look at the playoffs, other than Michigan this year, there really isn't an underdog story. Other than maybe Cincinnati, but we all think they're going to get killed. The underdog story of the year is Pittsburgh. Does anyone know what Pittsburgh's odds were to win the ACC before the season?
Yeah, I think we talked about it.
We did talk about it.
Yeah,
so
it was.
that's in your memory.
I can't remember now. It was something like 70 to 1, I want to say, maybe.
I think you're – no, I don't think so.
Wow.
No.
Minus
I think
4,500?
You're very close.
45.
It was 4,000 plus 4,000. They were they were the second last there with the other ACC representative, Wake Forest. So and if you look at it, he was really the only reason he did it this year. 334 pass attempts, which is basically double what he did in his freshman and sophomore year combined. 497 completions, 67.2 clip. That's very good, especially for playing in Pittsburgh systems. 4,300 yards, 40 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. I think he had a couple of rushing touchdowns as well. And if all year, and then this is just more of a plea, if I were pleading to voters, all years, every year, Bryce Young is going to win that award. But this was a different year than any other year we've seen in a long, long time. Why not give it to the guy that's the fifth-year senior that's been around there forever and who put up historic numbers this year? My final caveat is that also Jordan Addison is finishing 5th in my Heisman as well, so that's why. Because Jordan Addison, if you take a step back and look at his numbers, Devonta Smith screwed every receiver ever in the future, I think. But his numbers were insane. So Kenny Pickett is going to end up being a top 10 pick when I believe he was an unranked recruit coming out of high school. So good for him. I think he should win it. I think he should have won it. I don't think he should have won it. Bryce Young should have won it, but whatever. I don't want to see any more Alabama or SEC people win it in that. Whatever. All right. Mark Ingram wasn't the worst Heisman winner the last 25 years.
Listen, I'm forfeiting on this one just because I know I can't talk about it because I have too much personally invested. Okay. Mark Ingram was the guy there for some time when I lived in Tuscaloosa, and so I cannot approach this as a normal person. On top of that, I Googled it to try to find something that would help. I found a bunch of lists of like the top 10 worst Heisman winners ever. Tim Tebow was at the top of all of them. So now I'm just more angry than I was. And I just don't want to talk about anything now. Okay,
that's fine. We'll bring it up at a later time. But I just pull up all the Heisman. You know what? Troy Smith in 2006 might have been the worst Heisman winner too. Troy Smith was incredible that year, but he was very bad overall. All right, but obviously I think the year was incredible. Who are your top 5, top 8, top 7? Heisman.
I got 1 Kenneth Walker, 2 Bryce Young, 3 Kenny Pickett, 4 Will Anderson, and I'll go 5. I'll throw not Bryce Young, CJ Stroud.
Matthew?
What I think will happen or what I'd like to happen?
Well, it already happened. So what?
That's on me. I apologize for that.
No, you're good. You're good. It's Friday.
I would say number 1, Will Anderson. Number 2, Bryce Young. Number 3, Kenny Pickett. Number 4, CJ Stroud. And number 5 would be, I feel like I'm missing someone. Number 5, I'm going to go Matt Corral. But
Kenneth Walker.
Did I not put Kenneth Walker at 3?
You put Pickett at 3.
I'm sorry. Walker at 3, Pickett at 4, and then give me CJ Stroud at 5.
All right. I would have had Pickett 1, Bryce Young 2, Kenneth Walker 3, Will Anderson 4, Matt Corral 5. Okay, so I guess Jordan Harrison was 6, CJ Stroud 7, Aiden Hutchinson 8. But I just hate Aiden Hutchinson, so that's fine. All right, so now we get to talk about football's not over, guys. We still got like so many games. Someone told me last night that the first bowl was yet today, and I was shocked. Matthew, you obviously know because it's your team, but like I was shocked the first bowl game was today. I did not. I thought we had a full week before we got into bowls. But we'll talk about the 2 bowls today. But first, what we're going to do with our bowl picks, same thing as always. We're going to pick. You got to pick something on the game, and then if there's a bowl game that day, we talked about beforehand, either me or one of these guys, most likely me most of the time, will come out on a clip either through this. We'll go live on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, give our picks, thoughts on all 3 of our picks, thoughts on the game for every game there is, or every day, in that sense. So, but obviously right now, I do want to ask you guys before we get into today's game, what are maybe give me 2 or 3 the bowls you're most excited for outside of the college football playoff, and then maybe give me 2 bowls that you're the most excited for outside of, the New Year's Six or the big bowls. Matt, I'll start with you.
All right. I'm looking at the list right now. One game I'm very excited about: Central Michigan and Boise for one out of the norm, out of the big games. Another one I think is going to be an interesting matchup is Houston and Auburn. I'm excited for Oklahoma State and Notre Dame, of course. I think the North Carolina-South Carolina matchup is pretty cool, but I don't know if that'll end up being a good game. A lot of prospects are going to opt out, so I'm trying to, think of some games out of the norm.
So that's what I forgot to bring this up, and I apologize. And I don't know how I didn't bring this up earlier. Kenneth Walker is obviously foregoing his next couple of years. He's going pro. I don't know what you guys think about it. In my opinion, very smart move. You're a running back. You only have so many carries in those legs. We see it every week at the NFL level. You go as early as you can, and you get in the league as early as you can. Thoughts from either of you guys?
Yeah, I agree 100%, especially with running backs. That's actually one of the games I was probably going to be most excited for, but then him and Pickett opted out. That's both of their identities on offense, so.
And Pickett opted out, which,
yeah,
if you're going to be a first-round pick, I can't blame you. I just can't blame you. I don't know if you guys saw, maybe it was a week ago, Mike Leach kind of came out, and I don't necessarily think he was talking to the media or like the public, but I think he was kind of making a jab at his players about like, you guys don't know, like, you think that basically said like, this could be your last game ever. Like, you don't know what's in the future, so why are you just throwing it away for nothing? I think he was more talking about those guys that maybe are going to go in the 6th or 7th round or go undrafted, because I don't think anyone has a problem with like a first or a top 10 pick skipping out. But then I wanted to get back to the Bulls. But first, when do you think we're going to start seeing these guys sitting out? When is it going to start cutting into the season? Because – and now that someone else brought this up, Matthew, this has nothing to do against you or Florida. Like, after Florida loses 2 games in the SEC, why don't you just opt out then? Because all those games are pointless. So then I guess the question is, or the thought is, if you do think so, or if you don't think so, and then when would you think that it starts cutting into the season?
I think we have to be careful to create a culture that doesn't allow that. And I think you're spot on for bringing up Florida, because I think everybody remembers Florida's bowl game last year in the Cotton Bowl versus Oklahoma. We just got absolutely ran through because we were missing all of our top guys. And the message that sent to the upcoming recruits and the roster who was still there was that, hey, like, if you got your own thing going on, like, you can opt out, you can quit, you can be not part of this team whenever you like it. And then we saw that problem bubble up a lot this year. The Florida team looked a lot like it gave up. And I think if you don't want that to happen, then as a coach, you have to instill a culture that requires of your players to be a part of that team throughout every game.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I don't know how they're going to be able to do that with NIL now and everything like that. Matt, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it really started. This whole thing started to pick up steam and scare players more back in the game. I don't know if you guys remember Ohio State Notre Dame's bowl game. Bosa opted out. Jalen Smith didn't. Jalen Smith tears his ACL, ruins some of his nerves, and I mean, it hurt his career. It hurt his draft stock and everything. So I think that's what really scared players, and it's been getting worse and worse every year. Everyone's just opting out. I think it could very well start going into the season. If anyone gets little nicks, like Kyle Hamilton, like realistically probably could have been playing a lot of the games that he was sitting out. Yeah, I think players that are looking ahead to the draft, if they get little injuries, they'll probably just start saying it's not worth getting it worse.
Yeah, which stinks, but I don't know. We'll have to monitor that as we go forward. So, all right, Matthew, do you have any of the smaller games that you had some interest in?
Not smaller by every definition, but they're not New Year's Six bowls.
Okay, yeah, that's you know what I mean.
I am very excited. I talk about this too much. I'm a giant Arkansas fanboy. It's so pathetic. But the Outback Bowl, Arkansas and Penn State, I'm very excited about that. Similarly, the Alamo Bowl, Oregon and Oklahoma, I think is going to be a really good matchup. And then off the top of my head, I don't know who's playing in it, but the Duke's Mayo Bowl has become like essential watching every year. So whenever I find out the teams that are in that one, I'll be excited.
That's the North Carolina, South Carolina I was talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great, perfect. And then wrapping it up, the Gasparilla Bowl is going to be UF versus UCF. You guys know how much crap I talk about UCF. How much?
Yeah, Matt. This is stepping up time, because I got to tell you, you guys lose to UCF, you might not hear the end of it until 2023.
There will be poster boards in the grocery stores. It will be terrible.
Yeah, I keep thinking that like we're gonna make fun of you, but I forget that you live in Florida and that you actually have to deal with that in the real world. So I feel that. Going back to a little bit what we said with Deion and Jackson State or whatever. I don't know if it's today. I want to say it was today. Maybe not.
No, I think
is it today?
It's tomorrow. The Jackson State game.
Yeah. Either way, the Celebration Bowl versus South Carolina State, which is whatever, sold out. The Mercedes-Benz Superdome, whatever it's called now. So I'm a little bit excited for that. I actually do want to see Deion's kid play quarterback. I've never seen him play quarterback. So I guess you're going to kind of see how big this Jackson State thing really is on Saturday, because you never know. So I'm sure Travis Hunter will be interviewed over under 12 times. I'd take the over. Some of the other ones I was really looking at, Western Kentucky versus Appalachian State in the Boca Raton Bowl. Going to be very interesting to see what Western Kentucky does without their offensive coordinator. I don't know if he's sticking around. I wouldn't think he is, because I think he's going to Texas Tech, correct?
Yeah.
So I would think he's got to jump now. So very interesting to see what those two offenses are like. Yeah, I think there's a bunch of good ones. And to be honest, like the most disappointing bowl for me is the Rose Bowl, and to me it's the most disappointing bowl every single year, because either you have an Ohio State team that that basically missed out on the Final Four barely. And really, I mean, you could say whatever you want. Those guys don't really want to play in the Rose Bowl. They really don't care. It's a Rose Bowl. I mean, I know it means more than I guess the Fiesta Bowl or whatever, but it doesn't really matter. And then you usually get, and nowadays, hopefully the Pac-12 makes a comeback, but you get some team like Utah who, yeah, they've been really good. And if there was a 12-team playoff, I'd be a little scared of Utah. But in a situation where you have almost 30 days to prepare for this game, I don't think it's going to be very close. The Rose Bowl needs to move away. If the Pac-12 can't gain some respect in the coming future, they need to either move away from the Pac-12 or find a way to fix it, because every year it's either Wisconsin or Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, and no one just really I don't really want to watch it as a Big Ten fan. So that's kind of my thoughts. But since we're going to be going over like pretty much every game, let's go over the first two for today. Matt, I'll take you. We're kicking off here shortly, so whenever you got to leave, go ahead and leave. But just give me your preview.
I'm not going anywhere. I got it to the left here, so cool. We can finish up.
You know what? Tell us all about this game, because I'm not going to lie to you, Matthew. Maybe you know a little more than I do. I know nothing about either one of these two teams. Well, Toledo.
So I'll be honest. My school, we're lucky to be in a bowl game. We're not very good. Toledo is, however, pretty good. So I'm pretty worried about the game. I'm hoping we could at least keep it a game, because the opening line was 7.5. It's up to like 11 now or something like that. So
we'll be making picks. Hold on, I'm pulling up the book.
Yeah.
So keep going. Who's the quarterback?
So that's actually interesting. So we actually had, I don't know if you guys remember, Bailey Hockman was a transfer from NC State. He was the starter for like 2 years ago or something, and he got replaced by Devin Leary. He transferred over, and then he retired from football mid-season on us, like week 4 or something. And then our other quarterback got hurt. So now we're on like our third string quarterback. I can't even remember his name right now. But yeah, we're on like our third quarterback. Offensively, they literally just use quantity over quality. They just have a bunch of guys they use. They have like 3 running backs, like 5 or 6 receivers they use. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough matchup. I don't feel very confident, but I'm hoping we can at least keep it a game.
That's wow. It's not what I was hoping for from the first bowl game. Some pump up, but no. Toledo's always. I know Toledo. Toledo's always been a good program. They're a little high tempo. The line is at 10.5 now. The over under is 49.5. Matt, I'm gonna let you start. Matthew, unless you have any thoughts on it, or you could say when you give your pick. But Matt, I'm going to let you start, because I think me and Matthew are both kind of waiting for you, because I have absolutely no idea what to pick. And we'll see.
So having become our little group of 5 expert here, I have to take, unfortunately, Toledo with the spread, but I'm not going to be cheering for that to happen. I'd rather lose in the pick 'em, but I just think Toledo is going to be too much for them to handle. So I got Toledo minus the 10.5.
All right, Matthew, thoughts, and then your pick.
I'll flip it. I'll go plus 10.5, because I want Matt rooting for me to win the pick'em. So
yeah, as soon as he said that, I agreed. I was going to go. I'm all in on Middle Tennessee plus 10.5. So that's great. That's awesome.
Actually, so they just showed the quarterback. It's Nick Vattiato. He threw 5 picks his first game against Western Kentucky.
Hey, you never know what happens in these bowl games.
Toledo
might not want to be there. All right, and then our second one, the Cure Bowl between – who's playing?
Northern Illinois and Coastal.
Oh, another – Matthew, I'll let you start with this one. Got to say, it sounds like a little bummer for me.
I'm a little bit excited about this one. Both of these teams play opponents really close. I was reading last night that Northern Illinois, they have like 7 conference wins, and out of those, it's like a 25-point win margin. I could be slightly off, but I think that's what I read last night.
Yeah.
And then Coastal, they've got a bad habit. They play down to competition. So I think this is going to be a really tight game. So I'm going to jump all over NIU plus 10.5.
We got plus 11.5 now, so you're good.
Oh, great. Let me take that then.
All right. Matt.
Yeah. So NIU, they are horrible against the run, and Coastal doesn't do anything better than run. They have, I think, 2 guys over 100 yards a game right now. I'm all over Coastal. I think they cover the 11.5.
All right. So, all right. I don't like to have to pick between both of you. I saw Northern Illinois play. They pretty much dominated Kent, but Kent didn't look very good in what's the spread?
11.
I'm taking Northern Illinois as well. I'm taking Northern
both
Illinois
against
as
me
well.
and both, all right?
Yeah, it's taking Northern Illinois as well. Me and Matthew are just on the MAC train today. So that's great. Or no, we're not on the MAC train. You're on the MAC train for the game. You shouldn't be on the MAC train, and we're on the MAC train. All right. All right. So obviously next week we will get together whenever we can. Probably like Matt said, one of the days, Monday, Wednesday. I'll let something out. But we'll talk over the weekend. Matt, good luck.
We want to make picks for the Saturday games as well.
Oh yeah, we want to make picks for a lot of these. Shit.
Because there's games tomorrow, and then there's no games till Monday. So no games on Sunday.
All right, let's do tomorrow's as well. So we got the Boca Raton celebration, New Mexico, Independence. Geez, there's 5 of them.
Oh yeah,
6 of them. 7.
There's 7.
All right, there's 7. So all right, let's go through them all. Start with the first one I have up here.
Boca Raton.
Boca Raton. I just talked about it. Appalachian State, Western Kentucky. Appalachian State favored by 3. Over under is 66.5. Someone else can go. Hold on. Go ahead. Someone else.
Great.
You can go ahead, Matthew.
All right. I don't know much about both of these teams. I will say I live maybe 20 minutes away from Boca Raton, so I could go see this game if I wanted to. I don't really want to. I've heard interesting little tidbits about both of these teams. I'm not going to claim to know really either of them super well. Didn't Western Kentucky just have like an offensive coordinator leave?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to pick against them.
Okay.
And that's the only thing I'm basing it on, just so everybody knows. I don't want anyone to think I know a whole bunch about this.
I don't think I think we're all 3 of us are all very smart and well-versed in college football. These bowl games are just random teams versus random teams, so I don't think any of us can claim to be experts on this. Maybe Matt can. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe Matt
I claim to be only because the thing that got me into college football, me and my dad have been doing Bowl Mania since I was 5 years old. He did it in these brackets with his buddies, in these like pools with his buddies. I've been doing this with him. I still do it. Actually, not last year, the year before that when LSU won, me and him got second place in the entire nation in the Bowl Mania. We got like a $2,500 gift card from Amazon for second place. We were like 9 points off of first place to get a trip to the championship game.
Jeez.
So,
you tell me this after I've
crazy.
made all of my picks against you.
Yeah. Well, at least the secret's out now. We know. All right. So Matt, you took again. So you're going with App State -3.
Me?
Matthew, Matt, you're up. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm on App State in this one, and I don't want to, jump on Matthew's reasoning, but it was definitely the thing that brought it over the top for me for App State is the Western Kentucky coordinator leaving. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, most likely. App State scores a lot. They run the ball. They do it a different way, but Western Kentucky throws for a lot of yards. They are a very efficient offense. I think both teams score a lot, but I'm going to go App State with the coordinator leaving.
All right. So you're both on App State. Unfortunately, I will not be betting against you guys, but I'm not betting with you. I'm going with the under of 66.5. I think a high-powered team like that losing an offensive coordinator, that's a big problem. And on top of that, you said that App State scores a lot and they run a lot. It's exactly what I need for the under. So I'll take them under at 66.5. You both are on App State. All right, next one. We got the Celebration Bowl. It is today, or it's tomorrow. Wow, I can't think days. All right. South Carolina State, Jackson State, ABC. Looks like noon kickoff. Jackson State favored by 10.5. Over under is 42.5. I know nothing about either one of these two teams other than Deion's kid plays quarterback.
I'll go ahead and start. So I just looked up like what they do. Obviously, I can't act like I'm well versed on either team either, but I looked at like what they do well, what they average per game, points against, points for. It doesn't even seem like South Carolina State should be in this game with them. It doesn't really seem like they belong on the same field statistically. So I'm just going to roll with them. I don't really have much more to say about it because I've never seen either team play. So,
Matthew?
I'll pick against Jackson State just for fun. I mean, why not? I don't like FSU anyways, so boo Deion. That's literally all I got. These bowl games are killing me, man.
No, I hate you because now you're going to make me pick with South Carolina State too, because you're right. I want to see Deion lose his first game after like getting a huge recruit, and then people will be like, oh wait, maybe he isn't this good of a coach. So yeah, Matt, I'm in lockstep with you, but it also seems like we just really don't want to win, so that's fine. All right. What's the next one?
We got UTEP Fresno. It's the New Mexico Bowl.
UTEP not at Fresno. New Mexico Bowl, 2:15 kickoff tomorrow, ESPN. Fresno favored by 11.5. Over under 51.5. Obviously, this is all coming on the heels of maybe the greatest West Coast transfer saga of all time. Jake Haener going from Washington to Fresno State, then to Washington, but really not to Washington and back to Fresno State. Matt, I'll start with you. You're a Fresno guy.
Sorry, I'm trying to pull it up. I didn't think he was going to be playing, and I think that's why the line kind of moved because it opened at 14.5. But then he flipped right back to Fresno. I'm assuming that means he'll be good to play in the bowl game. If he's playing, I'm all over Fresno on this one. So I got them at 11.5.
All right.
Covering the 11.
Yeah, it's 11.5 now.
Yeah.
Matthew.
I'm going to take the same pick on this one. I love Fresno State. They're like baby Arkansas for me. I'd love to see this game end. Jake Haener, broken hips, broken legs, blood pouring down his face, and then he puts up 1 million touchdowns in the last 5 minutes because that's what I've come to expect from Jake Haener. So,
yeah, I mean, and it is a little bit forward thinking. This is probably his first tryout in front of NFL scouts, like his first real tryout in front of NFL scouts, I would think. I agree. I'm taking Fresno as well. All right. And then the next one, I believe, is BYU and UAB in the Independence Bowl, 3:30 kickoff, ABC tomorrow. BYU minus 6.5. Pause for a second. Didn't UAB not have a program like 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to start with this one then. I'm 100% going with UAB. I don't think they're going to win. But I don't like BYU. And I got to say, the fact that I just said that UAB didn't have a program 2 years ago, basically, and that's true. And the fact that they're only 6.5 point dogs makes me think this game might be a little bit closer than I thought, because if there was a 12-team playoff, BYU would probably not get in. They would have an argument, though. So I'm going to go with UAB. Matthew, let's go to you.
Yeah, I know I laughed at you. I just laughed at your reasoning. The pick is probably wrong, too, but I'll hop right in there with you. I don't know. I don't really like BYU. I spend enough time around Alabama to roll my eyes every time somebody refers to Bill Clark as the other Nick Saban. Yeah. I don't want to go down that path today. I'm not going to. I don't think UAB is very good. I'm talking myself into changing my decision. Give me BYU.
Okay. All right. Also, we've learned from this episode that we are going to have an episode in the future that is just going down the rabbit hole that is Matthew, because we've said you don't want to talk about things today. Well, we're going to talk about them at some point, and I'm very excited for that. So, Matthew taking BYU. Matt.
Yeah. So actually, you guys are being a little disrespectful to UAB. I think UAB was conference champions a year ago. They are actually a pretty legit Conference USA team. I'm also all over UAB. They haven't been around long, but when they have been around, they've been pretty good. So,
I mean, I would think so. I mean, you basically got to think if you're UAB, you get all the runoff from Alabama and Auburn. I am also going with UAB. So Matt, this is your game to maybe take a step forward. Matthew, all right. The Lending Tree Bowl. They got to come up with better names for you. We got Eastern Michigan versus Liberty. Liberty's favored by 9.5, over under 58. Matt, maybe you know about either of his teams. I know Malik Willis is on Liberty. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Matt, let's start with you.
Yeah, I don't know a ton about Eastern Michigan. I'm not going to act like I do, but Liberty, yeah, Malik Willis, in terms of NFL status, I think he kind of fell off a little bit this year. But Liberty as a team, they've actually had I think they're 7-5. They've had some games that were very winnable that they ended up losing by a hair. They could easily be 9-3 or 10-2. So I think they're the better team. I'm going to go with Liberty.
Matthew.
I'm going to go with Liberty as well. Malik Willis definitely took a little bit of a step back, but his production is still pretty high. On top of that, they've got Hugh Freeze at coach, regardless of your feeling on him. For a program like Liberty, it's a big deal. And they've got a gun range on campus and a ski slope on campus. And I'm pretty sure people are lying to me about what they have on campus, but these are all things that I've heard. So I'm going to go with Liberty.
Okay.
And I'll Google the ski slopes.
Where is Liberty? I thought Liberty was in Tennessee.
They're it's not in Tennessee, I don't think. I think it's in Virginia. But it's an indoor skiing thing.
Oh,
Has nothing to do with football, but I'll talk about it.
I believe you. I agree. Malik Willis has taken a step back. The only thing I'll say for me, Malik Willis is I don't think it really matters because no one really took a step forward. But I agree. I'm also going to go with Liberty here, which probably means because all three of us picked it that it's not. Then I mean, Eastern Michigan is definitely going to win. All right. Now to the LA Bowl. Seriously, the LA Bowl at InfoCision in Los Angeles. Come up with a better name. All right.
To be fair, it's actually called the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl.
Oh, is this the one where he's is he doing the commentating?
I'm not sure. I just know that that's what it's called. They added that now, so maybe he is.
I forgot to mention that about one of the ones I'm excited for. Because I don't know if I'm excited for it. I just want to see how it is. Because there's a very good chance I could turn it off within 5 seconds if he's the color guy. I like Jimmy Kimmel. All right. The LA Bowl. Oregon State, Utah State. Utah State coming off a big win. No, they lost. They got killed, didn't they? Or did they win that?
They beat San Diego State pretty bad.
Yeah, you're right.
In the Mountain West.
All right, so versus Oregon State. Oregon State's favored by 7.5. The over-under is 67. Matthew, I'll start with you.
Both these teams failed on me in conference championship weekend. I had Oregon State beating Oregon, didn't happen, and then I had Utah State beating San Diego State. I had San Diego State beating Utah State, and Utah State won that game. So I've learned my lesson. I'm going to go with Utah State, but I don't feel great about it. I really like a lot of things about Oregon State. I'm forgetting his name now, but they've got that running back. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's been incredible.
Yeah, hold on one sec. We'll keep going. I'll look it up.
Yeah, if you find his name.
On Oregon State?
Mm-hmm.
BJ Baylor.
That is it. Yep. BJ Baylor. So I'd like to go Oregon State, but I've been hurt before, so I'm going to go with Utah State in this one.
All right, Matt.
I'm on Utah State as well. Oregon State is like they are polar opposites on offense and defense. Their defense is atrocious and their offense is highly efficient. Their defense, it might only allow 26 a game. They allow over half the third down conversions. They are 50.9% converted against. So I think Utah State will have their way with them on offense, and I think Utah State's defense is pretty solid. I think they might be able to slow them down. So I was a little confused by the spread. I think they're going to win straight up. I think plus, what is it, 7.5? I think that should be a lock. So,
all right, which obviously means I'll take Oregon State minus 7.5.
Fair enough.
All right, and then the last one for the weekend, the New Orleans Bowl, Marshall and Lafayette is. I think I already asked this, but is Billy Napier coaching?
I don't believe so.
No, he's not. He announced after right before the conference championship, I believe, that it was going to be his last game.
Okay. So we got New Orleans, Louisiana Lafayette -4 over Marshall. Over under is 55.5. This is your new coach's alma mater, or not alma mater, last school. Matthew, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I don't know anything here except former head coaches between Billy Napier and Matthew McConaughey. I'm going to lean slightly towards Louisiana. They've made I'm glad you finally laughed. It only took you about.
All right. Well, I was thinking, I was like Matthew McConaughey, we are Marshall. Okay. Yes, I get it now.
Yeah.
Bravo, golf clap. That was good. And you snuck it in well that I didn't even really notice it. So that's good. Very, very good.
I'm going to lead slightly to -4 Louisiana. Roster-wise, they're a little better. Marshall's been a little bit of a funk as far as I know. They have had, I actually, for whatever reason, 2.5 years ago, I knew their roster really well.
They were really good that year. They were 13-1 or something. I remember the year you're talking about.
Yeah, but I'm a little lacking on them now. I still they've got this one faster quarterback whose name is going to come to me about a week and a half from now. But I'm going Louisiana, and that's all that needs to be said.
All right. Matt.
I am on Marshall. I think this game is going to be probably one of the better games on the slate this weekend. Lafayette loses Billy Napier, but I don't think that really matters because those players played for him and he coached for them. So they can't be mad at him leaving after the conference championship. They got what they wanted to get done. So I don't know. I think this game is probably my least confident pick. So I'm on Marshall just because I think it's gonna be a close game. So I think with the points, I think should cover, but we'll see.
All right. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go to Louisiana -4 as well. I don't know. I think they got done what they needed to get done. Matt, you picked Marshall or Louisiana?
Me,
Matt.
Marshall.
Marshall. Okay. And then Matt, you picked Louisiana. Correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for these games. I don't know. Hopefully we'll have a good slate of them. Like I said, good luck to your team. What's the score looking like now? Anything bad yet?
Oh, he dropped it. Oh, he dropped it. They literally just took a shot downfield and he dropped it. It's been all defensive. It's literally been 2 drives each. They both gotten maybe 1 first down between the 2 drives. It's just been punt.
All right. Well, awesome, fellas. Like I said, I will talk to you guys over the weekend. I will probably send out a text. I don't know. You guys don't do. Oh, that's the other thing I was saying. You guys don't really do Twitter. Duke's Mayo Bowl, their Twitter account is hilarious. So if you are on Twitter, I would give that one a follow. They are very funny. But I'll probably give out our picks for Saturday. I'll probably send something out on Instagram and Twitter. I'll tag you guys or whatever. And then, like I said, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, we'll get together. And then obviously for Monday's game, Monday and Tuesday's games, whatever day we don't do the show, I'll have the picks up like I just said earlier. So other than that, guys, it's been a great year. Looking forward to some bowls now. We're really in the March Madness era or the March Madness time of college football where we get pretty much a game every day. And luckily for me, I not only get to watch all 7 college football games tomorrow, I get to watch an extra 8th college football game because the Browns don't have any players. So it's
I knew exactly where that was going.
I'm surprised you did. I didn't think anyone was going to get that. But all right. Good luck to your team, Matt. Matthew, any last words, my man?
Scared money don't make money. Go Gators.
Yeah, and enjoy your nice weather. Screw you. Matt, anything else?
Go Blue Raiders.
Go Blue Raiders. I thought it was the Purple Raiders. No, that's Mount Union.
Blue.
Okay, I was wrong. Blue Raiders. All right. Let's rock, guys.